What happens when two of country music's most beloved voices clash over something so personal it threatens the very foundation of their friendship? Tonight, we're diving into the shocking moment that unfolded between Kelly Clarkson and Trisha Yearwood, a confrontation so raw it left the entire studio in stunned silence. It began like any other taping of the Kelly Clarkson Show. Kelly beamed as she welcomed her longtime friend and country legend Trisha Yearwood to the stage. The audience applauded warmly as the two hugged, their friendship seemingly as strong as ever. Kelly leaned in with her signature warmth. "Trisha, it is so good to have you here. Your new cookbook? Incredible. I made the peach cobbler last weekend, and my kids devoured it." Trisha's face lit up. "That makes my heart so happy, Kelly. That recipe's been in Garth's family for generations." The audience chuckled. The atmosphere light until Kelly's next words changed everything. "Speaking of family recipes, I noticed something interesting flipping through your book. There's a cornbread recipe in there that looked awfully familiar. Same ingredients, same method, even the same note about using cast iron." A flicker passed behind Trisha's eyes. Her smile stayed, but her body stiffened ever so slightly. "Well, you know how these southern recipes get passed around. Great minds think alike." Kelly's tone remained polite, but sharper now. Of course, it's just this one is very specific. My grandmother created it in the 1950s, when she was raising 6 kids on almost nothing. She even used to laugh about accidentally doubling the honey one day, said that's what made it perfect. The studio air thickened. Trisha's fingers twitched against her lap. "That's a sweet story. Honey really does make a difference. I've been making that recipe for years, since I first started cooking." Kelly's smile faltered. She leaned forward. "I know you have. Because I shared that story with you word for word when you came to my house 2 years ago. We spent the whole night talking about our grandmothers." The audience gasped softly, the tension now undeniable. Trisha straightened in her seat, her accent thickening as stress crept in. "Kelly, I think there's some confusion. I've been collecting recipes my whole life. Sometimes the stories blend together." Kelly's expression hardened. "Trisha, I have to ask you directly as a friend. Did you take my grandmother's recipe and put it in your cookbook without credit?" The question landed like a lightning strike. Producers shifted nervously in the wings. The audience froze, watching two friends teeter on the edge of something irreversible. Trisha's cheeks flushed, her polished composure slipping. "I cannot believe you'd ambush me like this." "If you had concerns, you could have called me privately." "I did call you privately," Kelly snapped back. 3 times, your assistant kept telling me you were unavailable. So here we are, woman to woman, friend to friend. Did you do it?" Silence. The longest stretch of silence the show had ever seen. Then, Trisha exhaled sharply. "You want the truth. Fine. Yes, I remembered your story. Yes, I used the recipe. But I never meant to hurt you. I thought of it as a shared tradition, not a theft." Kelly's voice cracked, more disappointed than angry now. "But in your book, Trisha, it's listed under Yearwood family favorites. And you wrote about your grandmother discovering the doubled honey by accident." "Those were my exact words. My grandmother's story." Trisha's eyes flashed, torn between defensiveness and shame. "Then maybe the memories got mixed up. Maybe your story reminded me of something from my own childhood. I swear, Kelly, I didn't set out to steal from you." Kelly shook her head slowly, the pain in her expression cutting deeper than any anger could, mixed up, or convenient. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you took something sacred. Something that belonged to my family, and you claimed it as your own." The audience sat in utter silence, caught between heartbreak and disbelief, as the two women once bound by friendship and mutual respect now stood divided by a single recipe. and a truth that could no longer be ignored. Kelly leaned forward, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Tell me, Trisha, how do you accidentally remember someone else's family story as your own?" The audience held its breath. What was once a cheerful interview had turned into something raw and uncomfortably intimate, a private argument spilling out under blinding stage lights. Trisha's eyes flicked toward the cameras. The realization hit. Millions would see this. She swallowed hard. "Kelly, please," she said, her tone softening into a plea. "Can we discuss this after the show? This is becoming really uncomfortable for everyone here." Kelly laughed. But it was hollow, bitter, uncomfortable. "You know what's uncomfortable, Trisha? Realizing that someone I trusted enough to welcome into my home, someone I shared my most precious family memories with, turned around and published those memories as her own, for profit." Trisha's cheeks flushed crimson, her composure cracking. "For profit?" she shot back. "Kelly, do you have any idea how insulting that is? I've been cooking, collecting, and sharing recipes long before I ever met you. I don't need to steal anyone's family traditions." Kelly's eyes burned. She leaned closer, her voice sharp as a blade. "Then explain it. Explain how a recipe my family's kept for 70 years somehow ended up in your cookbook with my grandmother's exact method, her exact words, and her exact story attached to it." Trisha snapped, her southern gentility dropping like a mask. "Maybe because good recipes travel, Kelly. Maybe because there are only so many ways to make cornbread. And maybe because not everything in this world belongs exclusively to you." The words cracked like a whip. Kelly flinched, the audience gasping audibly. A line had been crossed. Kelly's voice dropped to a near whisper, shaking with pain. "Belongs to me? Trisha, this isn't about cornbread. This is about my grandmother, a woman who told me on her deathbed how she fed 6 kids during the hardest years of her life. That story is sacred. It's ours, not yours." For a flicker of a moment, Trisha's anger faltered at the grief in Kelly's eyes. She opened her mouth. "Kelly, I never meant to you." "Never meant to what?" Kelly cut in, her voice sharp, breaking. "Never meant to take what wasn't yours. Or never meant to get caught." The accusation landed like a dagger. Trisha's face drained of color. "Dare you question my integrity? I've built my career on honesty, on authenticity." Kelly's voice hardened. "Have you, though? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you built part of your career on my family's stories. That was it." Trisha shoved back her chair, standing abruptly. Her mic screeched with feedback. "I came here as a favor to you, Kelly, to support your show, to celebrate our friendship. I will not sit here and be accused of theft by someone more interested in publicity than loyalty." Kelly stayed seated, but her voice filled the room. "The only person who brought publicity into this was you. I tried to handle it privately. You're the one who chose to publish my grandmother's recipe without permission." "I don't have to listen to this," Trisha snapped, unclipping her microphone with trembling hands. "I've been in this business long enough to recognize when someone's creating drama for ratings." Kelly surged to her feet, her face flushed with fury. "Drama for ratings. This isn't about ratings, Trisha. This is about trust, about friendship, about basic human decency. And you broke all of it." Trisha's hands shook as she ripped off the mic pack. "I'm done with this conversation. When you're ready to have an adult discussion instead of staging a public lynching, you know where to find me." Kelly's voice cracked, raw with emotion. "An adult discussion. I'm not the one running away. I'm not the one who published another woman's legacy and tried to pass it off as my own." The studio was silent. Producers froze in the wings, unsure if they should intervene. The only sound was Trisha's mic hitting the chair with a sharp thud that echoed like a gunshot. Trisha's chest heaved. Her voice trembled, but her words were icy. If that's really what you think of me after all these years, then maybe. We never knew each other at all. Kelly stared, disbelief etched across her face, as Trisha turned toward the exit. But she couldn't let it end there. "Don't you dare turn this around on me, Trisha," Kelly shouted, her voice carrying even without a mic. "I know exactly who you are. The question is, do you?" Trisha froze mid-step, her back still to the audience. Slowly, she turned her head, her eyes glinting as she looked over her shoulder. "You know who I am, Kelly," she said, her voice dangerously low. "I've been married to one of country music's biggest stars for over 20 years. Trust me, I don't need your family stories to make me relevant." The words hit like dynamite. The studio gasped. Kelly stood frozen, her heart break etched across her face as Trisha Yearwood walked off the stage, leaving behind not just a recipe, but a friendship in ruins. Trisha squared her shoulders, her voice steady but vibrating with emotion. "I've written cookbooks, hosted television shows, built an entire brand on Southern hospitality and family values. I think I know exactly who I am." Kelly didn't miss a beat. "Apparently, who you are is someone who takes other people's family recipes and calls them your own. Apparently, you value your brand more than your friendships." Trisha spun around fully, eyes blazing. "My brand, Kelly. Everything I've done comes from the heart. Every single recipe in that book carries meaning, including my grandmother's cornbread." Kelly's eyes narrowed. "My grandmother's cornbread, you mean?" "Yes." Trisha snapped, throwing her arms up, her composure unraveling. "Yes, because when you shared that story with me, it touched something in my soul. It reminded me of my own childhood, my own struggles, my own family's traditions. Maybe I did weave your words into mine, but that's what happens when people share their lives with each other." Kelly stared at her in disbelief. "So you're admitting it then? You took my story and made it yours." "I'm admitting that your story inspired me," Trisha said, her voice breaking under the weight of emotion. "When you talked about your grandmother feeding her children during the hardest years of her life, it reminded me of my own grandmother's sacrifices. Maybe I blurred the lines between your memory and mine, but I never intended to steal anything." The audience was riveted, some breaking the no-phone rule to record the confrontation. Kelly's tone dropped into something heavy and disappointed. "Intention doesn't change the outcome, Trisha. The result is the same. My family's story, my grandmother's story, is in your book, under your name. Her legacy is now part of your brand." Trisha laughed bitterly, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Kelly, do you really believe your grandmother was the only woman in America who ever doubled the honey in cornbread? Do you honestly think that story is so unique that no one else could have lived something similar?" Kelly went pale. "Callous doesn't even begin to describe this. We're not talking about some cooking accident. We're talking about specific words, specific details. Details you only knew because I told you." "And maybe," Trisha fired back, her voice cracking as anger and grief tangled together, "maybe those details resonated because I lived through something like it too. Maybe I've spent my whole life trying to honor the women who came before me, just like you. I don't call that stealing. I call it sharing the love and traditions that connect us all." Her voice shook, but she stood firm, eyes shining. "Kelly, I thought you, of all people, would understand what it means to carry on a grandmother's legacy." Kelly's expression softened into heartbreak. "I do understand, Trisha. That's why this hurts so much. You took something sacred, something that wasn't yours to share." "I shared it because it moved me," Trisha said, wiping at her eyes, streaking her makeup. because it embodied everything I believe about family and food and love. If that makes me a thief to you, then so be it. Kelly's voice went quiet, trembling but resolute. It makes you someone I don't recognize anymore. The words landed harder than all the shouting. Trisha froze, chest heaving, before scanning the cameras, the audience, the crew, every eye on her. Finally, she spoke again, her voice low and sad. Maybe you're right. Maybe you don't recognize me anymore. And maybe I don't recognize you either. The Kelly Clarkson I thought I knew would have picked up the phone, talked to me, given me the benefit of the doubt. Not ambushed. Me on national television. I did call you, Kelly protested weakly. 3 times, you never answered. 3 phone calls over weeks, Trisha shot back, her voice gaining strength. That's not trying, Kelly. That's a token effort, so you can say you tried before you humiliated me on your stage. If this mattered to you, if our friendship mattered, you would have shown up at my door. You would have demanded to look me in the eye. Kelly faltered, visibly shaken. I didn't think I had to. I thought a phone call was enough. Between friends, Trisha let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Between friends? Friends don't set traps for each other on television. The studio was dead silent, the tension unbearable. Trisha's voice cut through the silence, low but steady. Friends don't use their platforms to destroy each other's reputations over a cornbread recipe. I'm not trying to destroy your reputation, Kelly said quickly, but her voice faltered. I wanted an explanation, maybe even an apology. Trisha's laugh was short, bitter. An apology? For what? For being inspired by your story? For letting your grandmother's memory live inside mine? Kelly's face crumpled at the weight of that. Trisha, please, don't leave like this. We can fix this. We've been friends too long to end it here, can we? Trisha asked, her tone hollow now. Because for the last 20 minutes, you've dragged my integrity, my character, my entire career through the mud. On camera, in front of the world. Tell me, Kelly, how do we come back from that? By talking it through like adults. Kelly pleaded, stepping toward her. By being honest with each other and finding a way forward. Trisha shook her head slowly. Honesty. You want honesty. Fine. When I wrote that recipe, I was thinking about you. About that night we spent swapping stories about our grandmothers. About how connected I felt to you in that moment. Your words made me see my own grandmother's sacrifices in a new light. And when I sat down to write, all those memories, yours and mine, bled together. Kelly's voice was barely a whisper. So, you admit it. You used my story. I admit your story became part of my story, Trisha replied, her eyes shining with painful honesty. I should have given you credit. That was my mistake. But the way you've handled this, ambushing me here, treating me like a criminal, instead of a friend who made a poor judgment, that's something I don't know if I can forgive. The audience was silent, leaning forward, witnessing two women unravel years of friendship in real time. I never meant to make you feel like a criminal, Kelly said softly. I felt betrayed. Like you stole something sacred from my family. And I understand that, Trisha said, her tone gentler now. But you have to understand what it feels like to be blindsided like this. To realize someone you care about assumed the absolute worst of you without ever giving you the chance to explain. I'm giving you that chance now, Kelly insisted. No, Kelly, Trisha shot back. You're giving me a chance too. Confess, there's a difference. You already decided I'm guilty, that I'm a thief. This whole segment has been about forcing me into a confession you can live with. That's not true, Kelly said, her cheeks flushed. I just wanted something that would make it okay again. Or did you want a confession to justify your anger? Trisha asked, her voice cutting like glass. Be honest with yourself. You come here tonight to repair our friendship. Or to prove you were right? Kelly opened her mouth, then closed it. No words came. Trisha nodded slowly, heartbreak flickering across her face. That's what I thought. Kelly, I've made mistakes, yes. But so have you. You chose public humiliation over private conversation, confrontation over compassion. You assumed the worst of someone who has always been loyal to you. Kelly's voice cracked. Trisha, please, don't walk away. We can start over. We can even edit this segment out. Trisha's laugh was sharp, disbelieving. Do you hear yourself? Your solution is to edit out the part where you called me a thief on national television. That doesn't fix this. The way to fix this was weeks ago with a phone call, with trust, with friendship. But that chance is gone. Kelly's eyes brimmed with tears. I'm sorry, was hurt, and I handled this all wrong. I appreciate that apology, Trisha said quietly, but apologies don't undo the damage. Millions of people will see this. They'll see you. Question my integrity, and nothing can erase that. Kelly reached out, desperate. We'll figure it out, together. Trisha pulled back. Her words were final. No, Kelly, we won't. Because after today, I don't think I can trust you. And I don't think you can trust me either. Not anymore. The finality broke something inside Kelly. She sank into her chair. Defeated, while Trisha stood tall, her silence heavier than any words.